Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to just welcome you to this second workshop that we've done. It's the second one of 6 that we'll be doing, and there'll be a different one released each week. We thought it was really good if we could get out ideas, good practice, and things that were going on around the country with how clubs were communicating with their athletes, speaking to them, and initiatives that they were doing with their swimmers. So I'd just like you to introduce you to Kevin Brooks. He's the head coach at Wycombe Swimming Club. And we've got Mike Parker, who is the National Talent Officer for Swim England on the call as well. My first question to you, Kevin, is really around the social media side of things. What areas of social media did you choose to use and the reasons behind that?
So obviously after the announcement from Boris on that Friday night, we took the weekend to kind of consider how we wanted to go about things. And the first thing that struck home to us was that we really needed to make sure that we did this in a progressive and safe way. We've got a large membership, and we needed to make sure that we reached out to them and stay connected on a level which they are used to with the club. So we have some members that are only used to like 2-1 hours a week, up to my guys, which are 18, 19, 20 hours a week or more. And so we wanted to make sure we had a structured sort of progression through the club to recognise how much connection they have with the club anyway. We have various platforms that we have at our disposal, like any club: Instagram Live, Facebook Live, our own team feed on our Team Unify website, Zoom conferencing, Microsoft Teams. And so far, we haven't really used social media to the greater world, you could say. We've kept it internal, and just certainly for the first week, kind of focused down on communication through emails, communication through Microsoft Teams, certainly between coaches and committee contacts to decide what we're going to be doing. But then the crucial thing right now is we're communicating a lot through all our squads through Teams, setting up different activities that we've been doing, Zoom, which has been really, really successful so far. And I'm head coach of a club which has 650 odd swimmers, and that's a large membership. And so what I decided from day one was on that Friday, actually, I put out a video before Boris's announcement about why we were still able to still training and the safeguards we put into place there. And then suddenly everything changed, and I did another video on Monday, and now from every Monday I'm doing like a YouTube video, 5 to 10 minutes, probably more 10 minutes, but that's going to go out every Monday to our club, but that will be out in the greater world as well, where I try and like cover some key topics. So the first one was based around loss, because a lot of our athletes are experiencing loss to do with loss of having their exams at GCSE and A level, loss of swimming, loss of being at school, potentially from parents, loss of income. So there's all those kind of little things I wanted to touch base on, and to try and, as head coach, demonstrate that I am the leader of that program, and I want to make sure that we come through it together. So that's kind of our starting point, and I don't want to rush into things just yet. There's been some great content and some great stuff that I've seen other clubs do, and I'm sure they've put things into place either before this announcement or starting to now. But for us, that's kind of how we set off.
Yeah, you talked a little bit around kind of safeguarding there. What kind of measures have you put in place, or you're considering putting in place around social media, around delivering of sessions and land training and Zoom? I'm sure that would be really interesting for people to listen to.
So because we use the Team Unify system, we can set up events online with that. So just like if we're having like National Arena League, we can put out an invitation and swimmers commit to that event. And through committing to that event, they've signed up to it effectively. So we've basically put an event on our page for online training or virtual training. And we sent that out to the entire club. An email from me went through explaining what we're full-time coaches who were assigned to squads and sections of our club, in terms of they were going to be responsible for the delivery of virtual content through those to those squads. And then to go down and basically say you're consenting to, for example, provide a safe area to do land training in. You're consenting to the fact that you're aware of obstacles in your living room and that you're going to make sure it's a safe place to do so. You're consenting to the fact that for our own protection, but they will be deleted. You're consenting to the coaches having, certainly in my case with my squad, one-to-one communication through Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and various forms of things that we thought about. What do we need them to consent to, and what is that going to look like? What protocols do we have in place? So, for example, if we're going to conduct a land training session through Zoom where we might have 20 to 40, even 100 swimmers on that contact, we expect you to be in land training gear. We expect you to have a water bottle. We expect you to have a mute microphone so you're not talking and communicating in that sense. We expect you to be in a safe area. We don't expect you to be doing it in your bedroom. We don't expect you to be half dressed. Certain things to protect everyone have to be in place. So what we've done is we put that out to members. They've had to consent to that. Well over 60-70% of members have signed up to that already. Obviously lots of members have other more pressing things most likely going on, or potentially some don't want to be doing that at all. But then what we've said is we're only going to reach out and send content to those that have actually signed up. So then we use the sign up page to reach out to those members to then give them links to stuff, etc.
Fantastic. And you talked about you kind of addressing your members and speaking to them and talking to them about that loss. If you were going to say what your three main objectives were for, and we're only 2 weeks in now, but what your three main objectives were for the first 2 weeks, what would you outline them as being?
So the biggest number one objective, whilst we had lots of people talking about like national windows and all of that, that kind of seems like history now, but it certainly is. My biggest objective along with the exec committee was, right, we need to start planning and putting scenarios into place for the very survival of the swim club. First and foremost, number one objective, we have to have a club to come back to. Second objective within that is how do we, and I've spoken to some of the talent team around this already, is how can we retain as many of our coaches as possible to make sure they still have jobs to come back to and their own livelihood. But then with all of that, once we've got that framework in place, how are we as coaches fundamentally going to keep this club moving forward? And because the contact time at the swimming pool itself has now been totally taken away from us, the only way we can retain members is through maintaining contact virtually and through making sure that the daily involvement that our swimming club had in our members' lives continues, just in a different format. So I've been busier than ever, and I'm sure some of my other coaching team members have been as well, in terms of providing content, reaching out, staying connected with our athletes. You know, I've put it upon myself to make sure that every one of the 21, 22 kids that are in my top group in the club, I'm engaging with them on like a one-to-one basis every week for like 15, 20 minutes conversation, just me and them, with authority from their parents to do that. They're old enough to do that anyway, really. But equally, squad meetings every week on Monday, the performance squad will come together, competitive groups be on another day with one of our other coaches. It's keeping kids involved and keeping our masters and all the other members connected with the club so they don't start fading away from it. Because if you don't connect and if you don't put yourself in their life right now, they're going to have more and more reason to just fall away from the club, stop paying fees, stop swimming altogether. And then your club that you had as a going concern is going to become gradually less and less and less. So our biggest priority now, we've started to put some plans in place, is staying connected with our members first and foremost, and getting their headspace into a place where they feel like whenever they can come back, June, July, September, January, whenever it is, they're going to come back fitter mentally and physically than any other swimmer in the country. That's like their goal, is like they've got to stay on it.
Brilliant. You talked about what you're looking to try and do and your objectives. What resources, or where have you found resources to be able to do that? Who have you tapped into in terms of the staff members you've got, the qualifications that they hold, and then anywhere else that you're going to find information resources?
I think, actually, sorry, we're very fortunate in the fact that we have Gemma Hathaway, who is a preparation coach for her full title. She oversees all S&C work in our programme across all levels of our club. more focus obviously goes towards the performance athletes because they need it more, but she is seen and she does deliver across various squads in the club. And so she's become paramount in what we do, but we also don't want to overload her. So there are various things where we've set certain protocols, like we want to see progressive aerobic work done through either running, cycling, or biking, etc. Well, biking or going on an ergometer at home, anything they can find to do some basic aerobic work. We've set like a minimum standard for this week for certain squads, and we're going to review that on a week-by-week basis. So her involvement there is crucial, particularly when it comes to the actual like delivery of key stuff like core land training and injury prevention work, where she's actually leading through Zoom, making sure that technically it's done properly. She's picking up and correcting issues. Her knowledge there as being a UKSCA accredited coach, I think that's the terminology for it. She's incredible. And so we've really lent on her massively at the moment. But then all the other coaches have different interests and specialisms and the way they can communicate with their athletes. So we're trying to put a plan together through the coming weeks where each of them stay connected with their key squads. We are finding that, some of the resources which Swim England are putting out have been quite useful. Certainly one of the ones which Hannah and her colleague did to do with psychology. That came out yesterday, I believe, and that was really useful. So we rolled that out to some of our members. But as we're only really in week one of our first proper lockdown week, we want to see it as progressive. We don't want to just overload kids with everything at once because they're trying to find their routine at the moment, what is effectively their new normal. And we need to not just give them everything at once. We need to start to, okay, how did that week go? How can we make it progressive? So just like in the pool environment, the best training environment is where you have progressive overload and every week is gradually increasing, or you have an adaptation week, etc. It's no different now. As I put out in one of my videos to the club, I'm not expecting you to suddenly go on 9 2-hour running sessions a week. That's not what we're here to do. Your body couldn't handle that. How can we progressively increase your aerobic work and stay safe, most importantly, but also stay injury free? Because any athlete that goes and suddenly replaces swimming with a different sport is going to get different adaptations, and that will impact them either positively or negatively. So we've got to be very careful.
Brilliant. So we talked a lot about the process and how you put that in place, about the safeguarding measures that you've done as well. I'm sure everybody's really interested as to what this week has looked like in terms of what you've covered with your athletes, and how you've differentiated between age groupers, youth swimmers, senior swimmers, in terms of what they've done, and what your next week looks like. So I don't know if you can share your screen or if you've got anything physically for people to look at.
I would share my screen, but it's not saying I can at the moment. So if you can change that setting, that would be great. But just as I tried to allude to earlier, the crucial thing for us is managing the contact time per squad. So our Silver Academy has 2 1-hour sessions a week of swimming. So they're roughly going to receive 2 1-hour sessions of one sort of activity and maybe another sort of more psychological, fun, game-based activity. And that is just a progressive plan throughout the rest of the program, where gradually more and more comes into play. So, for example, my squad at the moment has a plan where this week alone they're expected to do a minimum of 3 aerobic sessions, 2 core sessions, 3 injury prevention sessions, and we're also having a nutrition session as well this week. Okay, so we deliberately didn't go too heavy on the aerobic side of things because they're not used to running, they're not used to biking. We wanted to try and make sure that they had progression in that. So, for example, tomorrow, towards the end of the week, we're coming together at lunchtime around 12:30 to do an omelette making session on Zoom, where they're all going to have to make an omelette together. Because thinking about it, kids that are 16 to 21, not many of them really know how to make food. We're going to be tasked with making a healthy omelette with different ingredients, and it's got to be made correctly, and they should be able to eat it. I'm going to do that together, have a bit of a laugh with it. But that's their first cooking task, a very simple but healthy, nutritious meal for lunchtime. And that's just one of the activities we're going to do. And then depending on that success, we're going to build it up. We've also factored in as well that on Sunday evening, we expect those swimmers to have some social time, in terms of they all need to go onto like the house party app or through Snapchat, through their squad or collective squads, and have an en masse like social. For our masters squad, for example, because we've got 90 odd masters in our program, so that's a massive part of our club, an important part of our club. We've suggested to them that, you know, in a couple of weeks, one Friday night, everyone orders a curry, and they're all going to go on Zoom and have a curry together and have a curry party, because sometimes they do that after big competitions, you know. And I think that kind of stuff is just thinking outside the box a little bit and think, how can we do these interactions online? So that's kind of like, I think the important bit I want to stress though is what we're trying to do is put content to our swimmers at their level. And because obviously we have Gemma, which has delivered land training, she's very acutely aware of what each level in our program, the syllabus of land work, which they all have, and how it's progressive. She's very good at being able to pitch it for the right squad. So the ABCs of movement in our academy and potential, a bit more fun and a bit of integration, going up into much more of the deeper sort of like fundamental movement patterns and land training exercises you'd expect with performance. So it's progressive in terms of the hardness of the program. It's also progressive in terms of the amount of contact time as well.
Brilliant. And what's been the feedback from the swimmers on the content that you've delivered so far, Kevin?
It's been really, really good. I mean, I keep getting emails from parents all the time saying that they're so thrilled with how we're trying to keep up their kids engaged. I've got some text messages of photos going, wow, this is amazing, and with a photo of the kid inspired on the screen. One of our younger coaches, Kieran, he's our lead junior coach. He was delivering for all of his potential squads. So he oversees 3 potential squads, which is probably about 60 junior kids aging from 8 to 12. He delivered a streamline session for them, where it was a case of he was drawing pictures, sharing things and showing them and talking around importance of streamline. And they'll obviously always do that in the pool, but this was more time to do with the education of why and showing videos of why it's important, etc., etc. He's also then contacted me yesterday saying, can we get a couple of your senior guys, 2 of your oldest swimmers, to do like an online Q&A with my squad, so they can like ask questions and inspire and stuff, and talk to them about the longer term picture. All those great ideas. I'm getting loads of that sort of stuff from the team. Josh Atkins has been doing some live like Instagram videos with his squad, and also Nikki with the academy, to try and like get across, like just sending personal message on a smaller scale to what I would do with the whole club. So there's lots of stuff which maybe we haven't put out there on social media, but there's lots of stuff we're doing. I can actually show you that plan.
I think you can share your screen now as well. Now, Kevin, you may well be able to do that.
I'll see if I can show you this plan here, if it will work. Bear with me. Here you go. So this is just a very brief overview. If you can see that what we've done here is we've got like, this is all going to start filling out, but the week as it comes up at the moment, you can see straight away that I've got like a Kev chat planned in on Monday the 23rd, and then I've got another Kev chat here. We've got when different squads are going to have their team meetings. I've got when individual swimmers with me from my squad in senior performance. You can see I've got one-to-one meetings with each of my swimmers coming through the week. So I stay in touch with those guys. We then have some aerobic work planned in, a Zoom strength session, a core session, etc. There's our omelette making lunch. We've also been setting activities to do, either through using off the blocks or YouTube, or some of the psychology stuff. So we've been putting in like some stuff, not every evening, but it's there for us to do that. And then that will just keep progressing as the weeks go on. Who knows how long it's going to be, potentially for a lot longer. And then you can see the other squads in the club of what's going to be involved. So if you just look at my one here, for example, you can see some of the stuff I'm considering for my guys at the moment. Team meeting, one-to-one meetings, some form of aerobic exercise, land training / metabolic conditioning, independent or own choice exercise. So there's some swimmers that want to do a bit more and feel like they can. So I'm not going to stop that as long as they do it safely and it's progressive. Injury prevention work, psychology, lifestyle, independent stuff, and importantly some social work. So that will evolve, and you can see as we go down, if I look at like our potential squads, that's a little bit smaller. Team meeting, conditioning work, land training, prevention, education, social event. Academy, Nicky's done some great stuff here. Cyber Learn, Cyber Active, Cyber Talk. We're going to have a little workshop, and then weekly stuff here. And then that progresses in some exercise and games on Saturday. That's like their 2 contact times they'd have. We then go down into other squads a little bit more. These are kids at county and regional level, and obviously masters as well, which we want to try and engage with. So these are just plans which are starting to come together. And obviously, as the weeks go on, we'll review and then evolve it and adapt it as we go forward. Because obviously, we won't keep with the same plan, because it's got to be progressive. Yeah,
that's brilliant. That's great. Mike, have you got any questions for Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin, have you found a need to do some communication with your parents and with the pool provider?
Yeah, so while we were still swimming, which was before Boris's closure of swimming pools announcement, we'd been talking to the leisure centre, certainly I had, almost on a daily basis, what are your plans going to be, what's going to happen here, and their continuous message was, we're going to stay open, we're going to stay safe, we're going to put more cleaning protocols in place until the moment either the council or the government close us down. And then on that Friday night, they closed us down. We've now had a communication from the leisure centre immediately saying that all bookings have been suspended for obviously the next period coming up, and so obviously we're not going to have any financial implications with that, which is obviously good. So that's been really good. We have a great relationship with our leisure centre provider anyway, so we've got some great relationships there. But in terms of, like, did you say with our membership?
Yeah, with your parents.
Yeah, so what's been really important, I think we've been obviously communicating through email, but email after email after email. I know my inbox has suddenly just started to get even fuller and fuller over this last couple of weeks, and it was full before. But what I think's important is trying to attack things at different angles. So that's why I decided to do like that club video. Whether people watch it or not, it's just another way of trying to capture a different group of people. I might try and do some shorter snippets, because obviously sitting down to watch an 8-minute video will get a bit boring for some people, particularly if they're listening to me. So it's just different things that we're trying to do, because engagement and keeping people feeling like they're a part of our community, which is our club, is critical if we're going to have a club to come back to. So I don't think you can do enough in that regard. But importantly, at the level which they are connected to our club at, and making sure that their squad coaches that they're involved with wherever possible are the ones to reach out.
Yep, thank you.
Kevin, there's some absolutely fantastic information there to go out to the coaches, just from the Swim England team and from the swimming community. I just want to thank you very much for your time and all the information that you've shared with us this afternoon.
That's no worries at all. And if anybody wants to get in contact with me, you can get in touch through Twitter or Instagram, which is @KevBrooksCoach, or you can email me at headcoach@swimwycombe.com. I'm more than happy to help people, because we've got to come together as a community of coaches.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.
No worries.